What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the review and discussion for UnOrdinary episode 270. Sorry, 280. I don't know why I was going to say 274. Anyway, this episode was really interesting, actually. Once again, we got another look into a side story with Rei and Kuyo. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Overall, the episode was pretty good. I did like it a bit. And I'm going to say this right now. This episode, just because I feel like Kuyo is still a bit of an enigma in the UnOrdinary lore, just because, to be fair, we still don't know a whole lot about him, and we don't know whether or not he really can be trusted. But I think, once again, that this episode does just kind of lead towards the fact that Kuyo can indeed be trusted, and he actually is a hero. And is going to end up becoming an ally for everyone. So, with that, let's go ahead and start. So, it starts off where episode 279 immediately ends, where Remy asking Kuyo if he was there when Rei died, and he wonders if both Remy and Aizen are involved with vigilante work. He even says, like, don't tell me that you guys are involved too. She tells him, like, not to change the subject, and that she then asks him again if he was in fact there, and he confirms he was. And Remy immediately starts yelling at Kuyo, saying that she abandoning Rei's body. And I do understand why she's upset, definitely. But in all fairness, it's not really fair to Kuyo for that, but it does make sense within her character. And even Kuyo's defense of himself kind of like, and we ourselves clearly know that, like, Kuyo probably did do everything he could. But mentions that he did try to go back for the body, but it was being guarded by Ember. He mentions that that they were camping his body specifically. Aizen then asks who they are, and Kuyo says that it was Ember operatives, plural, which throws Blyke off as he questions if there's multiple agents for Ember. And honestly, I feel like that should have been obvious. Like, yeah, you only encountered one person, but I think within a terrorist organization like Ember, you could probably guess that there's at least going to be more than one person like Vulcan. That's just me, though. So Kuyo then begins telling us about the confrontation after Remy asks him to explain everything. Now, nothing in this flashback contradicts what he told Blyke back in episode 91. So once again, I think that episode 199. So once again, I do think that Kuyo is being truthful in everything he says. Now, we meet, Kuyo and Rei, they find a dead body somewhere in a city, and they see that it has wounds that they have encountered before. Does not have wounds that they encountered before. Get to that in a second. So, they see that a person left the vial on them still, and someone walks up to them in a similar outfit to what Vulcan was wearing when Remy, Blyke, and Aizen had their confrontation with her. They then ask if it's possible that he's one of them, but he immediately goes to attack them. So, for now, we're gonna call this guy Apollo, just because that's kind of that's a literal fire name similar to Vulcan for volcano. Anyway, so we meet him. He's got purplish hair and everything. So he immediately activates Flame Claws and he rushes at Kuyo and Rei. Speed, one of the abilities that Sarah saw back in episode 256 on the list of abilities that they had. So, uses speed to get up to them. I say that he uses that for sure because Uru uses the dash onomatopoeia when he runs to them, and she usually only does that when a person is actually fast. So, he runs up at them, and he gives Kuyo and Rei a bit of a run for their money for a bit, but ultimately, Rei is able to get him down to one knee. But then Vulcan shows up and ambushes Rei, immediately slashing him with Flame Claw, and he gets down to one knee now. So, while Kuyo is kind of reeled back and kind of observing everything, uh, Vulcan then pierces Kuyo through his torso. So Kuyo's not getting out of this one. Ray's not getting out of this one, clearly. Kuyo then tries to get him back, but he easily gets dealt with by the two. And Ray takes it upon himself to grab onto the two of them while he still has the strength to do it, and unleashes everything on them. And it's really interesting. This fight kind of shows us what Remy will be capable of, and she really only needs a little bit more to go. She's a 4.4, she's a 5.4 now, and Ray is a 5.8 at the time of his death. So honestly, it was really cool. And honestly, the way Ray's move worked is he basically called down lightning on all three of them because he was holding on to Vulcan and Apollo. So he basically called lightning down. But the way Uru did it honestly kind of reminded me of how Agent 23 looked when he became water and everything. It reminded me of that. So I do kind of feel like if Remy does become a god tier, she will be able to become lightning, similar to how Agent 23 becomes water. So, that being said, moving on. This fight also, one thing that I did kind of think was a bit odd about this episode is, upon first reading, is it kind of seemed like Remy, Blyke, and Ison immediately had a much easier time with Vulcan than Kuyo and Ray did. And Kuyo and Ray are obviously a lot stronger than all three of them, especially at the time when Blyke was still an elite tier at that point. Now, that was really strange to me, honestly, but it makes sense because they were able to they were able to get the better of the first agent, who even during this episode says that he's not used to this ability. So he actually, did he say ability or abilities? I'm pretty sure he just said ability singular. So, quick check. Yeah, he says ability singular. So that was interesting. So he says that he's not used to the abilities. So, but Vulcan, she ambushes Ray, and she does a lot of damage in one hit. And clearly Ray himself doesn't have a regeneration type ability. And she takes care of Ray easily because he had his guard down. So it makes sense that she was able to, that they were able to easily take out Ray. It was an ambush attack. And when he was still down, she dealt even more damage by piercing him through the chest or torso. But it also makes sense that once Kuyo is by himself, he can't do shit to either of them. He doesn't go down necessarily as easily as like Remy would have. And ultimately, you do have to realize that Remy, Blyke, and Ison had to retreat. And also, Remy and Ison had the benefit of Blyke being there at a distance to cover them. So, yeah. I did think originally it was a bit strange that Kuyo and Ray had a lot of a harder time against them. But it does kind of make sense, honestly. So, there's that. So, yeah. That's the fight there. Kuyo then mentions that he tried to go back for Ray's body after the dust settled, but the two of them were still looking after his body, still guarding it and everything. And it looked like after everything he unleashed on them, they hadn't taken any damage. That is regeneration. So, Kuyo then apologized to Remy for saying that he wasn't strong enough to protect Ray, but she actually thanks Kuyo for giving her some closure, and then she proposes that she will help Kuyo in exchange that he will help her take down the organization that killed her brother. Now, I really liked this part for Remy, actually. I still stand by what I said in my reaction, but more on that in a second. But she does not volunteer Blyke or Ison in this proposition. She specifically says that I will help you with this, Kuyo. Now, that's good. That's good on Remy that she's not just dragging her friends into this. Now, that being said, I'm 90% positive that immediately during episode 281, Blyke and Ison will both be like, whoa, if you're getting involved, then we're helping too. So, and plus, we have the season 2 Part 2 poster to go off of. So Remy and Blake are definitely going to be Kuyo's backup, and Ison is definitely going to become the guy in the chair. So that's episode 280, and honestly, it was a pretty good episode and a nice little bit of action for as little as it was. I felt that this episode was actually a little short, on the short side too, but we got more of Ray. We know why Ray is a hero, and that's awesome because Ray's a great character, and it's a shame that he's dead, but I think even for a dead character, Uru has handled him very well, and it's also nice to see just kind of more Ray, like see what he was really like, you know, self-sacrificing for Kuyo, a friend who he clearly had a falling out with for a great bit during their time at Wellston. So honestly, Uru, I think you're doing an awesome job with Ray. And yeah, I still want to really look forward to more stuff with his past. When you get the chance to write more side story, like I want to see how he became God tier, how he got this good, how he became the king of Wellston. One thing that is kind of weird, actually, it does kind of seem like Ray might have been stronger than Kuyo, so I think maybe Kuyo was a 5.7 at the time during this fight, but I still think that Kuyo has to be a God tier and above Arlo now. That would be a really big jump now that I think about. Oh, crap. Uru, I love you, but why do you keep levels such a secret? I'm standing by it. Kuyo definitely has to at least be stronger than Arlo now. I'm standing by that. But yeah, overall, this episode is good. It's good. It was a nice character moment for Remy at the end. She still has to reflect on getting a woman killed, and she still has to swear that that'll never happen again, because if she does, no, that's all getting thrown out the window for me. I'm not gonna stand by that. But overall, I would give this episode a level 8.7. It's pretty good. Not the best fight of season 2 part 2, but it's still really fucking good. So that will be it for now, guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, see you, Space Cowboy.